14, I started babysitting around the neighborhood. I told them I wanted to learn responsibility. They beamed, told me how proud they were, and bragged about me at church. I started tucking most of the money away in a shoebox behind my dresser. No one checked. No one asked. That winter, I caught a bad flu. I had a fever, chills, and couldn't get out of bed. I asked for soup. My mom poked her head into my room and said, "You're not a baby anymore. You'll be fine." She left a box of tissues on my desk and walked away. I learned to make simple meals by watching YouTube videos at the library after school: scrambled eggs, grilled cheese, pasta. I started doing my own grocery shopping when I got tired of waiting for food I liked to appear in the fridge. When they took a family road trip the next summer, I sat quietly in the backseat while they played car games and made jokes with each other. I wasn't invited into the conversation. I didn't try to join. At the rest stops, I bought my own snacks with babysitting money and made sure to sit by the window. One night, I overheard my mom on the phone with a friend. She was standing in the hallway, not realizing I was upstairs. She said I was so independent now and that she barely had to parent anymore. She sounded proud, like she'd trained a dog to open doors. Another time during dinner, my dad made a joke about how I was like a self-cleaning oven. The room laughed. I forced a smile. I never forgot the phrase. By the time I turned 16, I had a plan. I met with my school counselor on my own and asked about early graduation. I doubled up on classes, took extra credit assignments, and skipped the junior prom to finish coursework. They thought I was just motivated. They had no idea I was mapping my escape. That year, I started researching colleges, only out-of-state ones. I applied for financial aid, scholarships, and housing all on my own. I used the school computers to fill out forms. I didn't use their tax documents. I didn't ask for signatures. I figured it out. When I got the acceptance letter from a university 900 miles away, I waited until the very last week to mention it. I handed them the envelope at dinner. My mom glanced at the name and said, "That's pretty far." My dad grinned and said, "Guess we raised you too well, huh?" There was no family meeting, no debate. They didn't offer to visit the campus with me. They didn't ask about dorms or classes. They just nodded and made vague comments about flights. When the day came, they dropped me off at the airport. My suitcase was half filled with thrifted clothes, secondhand textbooks, and a small folder of printed documents. I had $1,200 saved in that shoebox, and a prepaid phone plan in my name. They hugged me briefly at the terminal and said, "Call us when you get there." I nodded and walked straight to the security line. I never called. I blocked both their numbers before the plane took off. Not out of spite. Not as a message. I just didn't want any more fake check-ins or birthday texts that came 4 days late. On the plane, I looked out the window and didn't feel anything. No nerves. No excitement. Just the sound of a clean break. When I landed, I took a cab to the dorms, checked in, and introduced myself to my roommate like I'd always lived alone. No one asked who dropped me off. No one cared. And that was fine. And in my first week, I opened a checking account, got a campus job at the dining hall, and signed up for student orientation events. I made a schedule, posted it above my desk, and stuck to it. There was no going back. I didn't burn any bridges. I just stopped crossing the ones they left to rot. College gave me something I hadn't had in years, space that was actually mine. I didn't have to tiptoe around anyone's moods or routines. I didn't owe anyone updates. I just moved, worked, and kept going. I got a job at a 24-hour diner a few blocks from campus. Took late shifts, sometimes doubles on weekends. The manager liked that I didn't complain and never showed up late. I used the money for rent, books, groceries, and a prepaid transit pass. I bought my own winter coat during a clearance sale in October. It wasn't stylish, but it was warm. My roommate asked once why I never called my parents. I told her they were always busy with their own stuff. She didn't ask again. On Thanksgiving, I stayed on campus, walked to the corner store and bought boxed mac and cheese and a pumpkin-flavored soda that tasted like regret. At Christmas, I helped a friend decorate their tiny apartment with dollar store lights and paper snowflakes. No one from home invited me. No one checked in. At 19, I landed an internship in another city through a connection from one of my professors. I packed my things, found a Craigslist sublet, and moved within 2 weeks. I didn't tell anyone except my landlord and my work-study supervisor. There were no goodbyes. No one asked where I went. I updated my resume that summer and decided to start using my grandmother's maiden name. Daliel. Not legally, just on paper. On email signatures, applications, and my class project credits. It made things cleaner, lighter. It felt like mine. When the internship ended, I didn't go back to campus. I signed a lease on a small apartment, just enough space for a bed, a desk, and a table. I bought mismatched dishes from a thrift store and put up blackout curtains. I adopted a cat from the shelter and named her Sparrow. She was quiet, skittish, and slept curled up near my bookshelves. We understood each other.